I was looking for a community of people like me who were going through the same thing. So for you guys, it's very relevant because it could be all of the wounded vets who go out and start their own companies who, through this network that Amanda's built, can find one another. It's already there. The community platform is already there. In my case, it wasn't there. So I wasn't looking to start another business. I was just looking to find other people, other women actually like me. And so somehow I knew Amanda, so I called her up, and I called up a couple other women in my neighborhood, my next door neighbor, Katie O'Keefe, who was here last time. And then I said, you know, ladies, would you like to get together for dinner on a regular basis to start talking about business? So that was really how it started, was to just bring people together to have collaborative discussions. And what happened shortly thereafter is I got a call from some folks in Bethesda who wanted a group, and then folks in Alexandria who wanted a group, and folks in AU, Cleveland Park, and Georgetown, and Glover Park. And again, all of this was, I think that what really took, and the hook, which isn't unique to me, but is more and more unique to businesses, was this concept of hyper-local, face-to-face. So there is information overload out there. If you want a piece of information, you're guaranteed that it's out there. You have to find it, but you're sure that it's out there. But this concept also of communities and really who's in your neighborhood is becoming more and more relevant. Starbucks is incorporating it into their new strategy going forward of really even, I mean, they are very much in neighborhoods, but making it hyper-local. So we really we understood who our people were. And our people, most women, either are raising kids, have raised kids, maybe they're taking care of elderly parents, they have a gazillion other things to do. And they did not want to also be traveling if they lived in Bethesda to Tyson's Corner. If they lived in Tyson's, they don't want to go to, Leesburg, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of how it started, was building something that I wanted for myself. Last spring, I actually said to Amanda, I said, I think I have a little problem here because this is taking up so much of my time. I don't have time to focus on my other business as much anymore.
What was your other business?
Management consulting. So I come from a cookie cutter consulting MBA, how do you run a business kind of background. And I did that for about 17 years. And I very much enjoy it. And I think it's helped me understand how to build a business. There's still a lot of stuff I don't know, but at least I think I can set the infrastructure. And Amanda actually did me a great service where she said, well, let's break this market down. Let's really understand who your customers are beyond the women that I was already working with. And so we looked at who was our target market, how much money was she making on an annual basis, what did she want, what did she need, what did she not want. And there was this moment at that point where Amanda showed me this PowerPoint slide, and I about fell out of my chair because I had seen all of the data on women business owners before, but I had never seen the inverse of the data, which showed, we often hear as women entrepreneurs, only 1 to 2% of us will ever break the $1 million mark. But I'd never seen the opposite of that, which was that 88% of us will not make more than $100,000 in revenue per year. Boy, did that make me mad. I mean, that made me really mad because I know how hard it is, whether you're a man or a woman, trying to build a business. And I also realized that I had a way to change that. Because for women, oftentimes, we are told to be more like men. We're told we're not very good at sales, that we need to be front and center and pushing our stuff. Whereas a lot of the times, women prefer to tell somebody else's story. So they prefer to actually serve as advocates, to promote other businesses. And what I realized is that because we have these small groups by neighborhood, and we get to know everybody's stories, we're naturally telling one another's stories and connecting us and promoting business. And that actually was how we could change that 88%. And that's when I decided I was going to change this game and that I was going to build a business. And so I put some seed funding together. Now, one of the things for any entrepreneur, man or woman, it's particularly true for women, is that it's difficult to get access to money, and you need money to build a business. You may not need $100,000, but you need a certain amount of money. It can be $5,000, $15,000. In my case, it was probably closer to $75,000. And the reason I needed $75,000 was that I didn't want to build more Her Corner groups in Washington and say, woohoo, here I am, I have all these women in Washington. I realized that if I wanted to change the game and if I wanted to bring down that 88% number, then I was going to have to create a business that could scale, not only across all the United States, but all of the world. And the concept was that in any country, in any city, if you are a woman and you're building a business, you should be able to join a group to help you build your business. Just like women go to Weight Watchers to lose weight. It's the same idea. And so I needed a certain amount of money to really think about how do I create something to scale, which, by the way, I have no idea how to do. I have built management consulting businesses, I have built services businesses, I have built import antique brands businesses. I have never built a business to scale. So I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But I knew enough that I knew who I needed around me. So I worked with a tremendous law firm and said, here's all my content. When you join Her Corner, we give you a binder with all sorts of stuff in it on whatever you need. We went through the process of getting the logos, is it copyright? Patent? No, not patent. Trademarked. The content copywritten. We went through the process of making sure that we had agreements in place. And in fact, Amanda gave me some advice the other day. We revised them again because we're growing well beyond groups now that I can control. So we have to protect the relationships that are going on outside of the groups that I run in terms of intellectual property and privacy and issues that may go on between members and things like that. We also worked with a branding firm. I wasn't going to mess around. One of the things I'm really bad at is branding. I mean, I stink at it. It's awful. Somebody starts to ask me, how do I feel about orange and blue and what do I want my business? I mean, I really would rather do anything else other than go through that process. So I hired a branding firm, and I hired a firm that could extend the branding in one fell swoop, from the logo to the cards to the website to the templates to the email campaigns to the whole thing. We worked with Ning in San Francisco to make sure that we created a site that, because we knew that our users have sometimes lower adoption rates, they take technology perhaps a little bit more slowly. We started with kind of fewer bells and whistles in our Ning network, and now we're in the process of, we brought somebody on last week, and I said, your job over the next 6 months is to really accelerate the content and the structure of what people get on our network. The best thing we did was we sat down with our people, our members, who at the time were not members. And I said, all right, ladies, what do you guys want? The deal was the people who were at the table for those first 2 years became founding members. And as such, they were never going to pay a dime to be a member. But in order for this business to scale, I needed to create a membership-based model. So if I was going to hire somebody else here, for example, to facilitate a group in Fairfax for me, or in, I don't know, Toledo, Ohio, or in San Francisco, I needed to be able to pay that person from a revenue model that had membership fees. And so I sat down with my members and I said, what would you guys like? And that's what we built. We started with what they wanted, and we created a business around that. There was some value in spending some money in public relations. And so getting some credibility. So when somebody landed on my site, they would say, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, and look, it's been featured by the Washington Business Journal, the Wall Street Journal, and so on and so on. We went from 30 members September 1 to close to about 100 now. But we're not a free-for-all. So you can't just come in just because you're a woman entrepreneur. Every woman has to apply. She then gets interviewed. And then we determine, is she a good fit for a particular group? Are we the right fit for her? And can we help her? And we start, that's where everything about our brand starts, is how can I help you? And when we get people who apply, who want to use our forum as a soapbox, for example, for whatever they've learned or a story that they want to tell over and over, we know they're not a right fit. When people come to us and say, well, what's the ROI and how do I know I'm going to get referrals? We know they're not a right fit. We lead with something different, which is very personal to me and what I needed for my business and who I am, and that's the brand that we're extending. And I think it tends to resonate with a lot of the people that are becoming members. So the goal for the year is to get to 250 members in Washington, D.C.,